All right, so there's a few different types of metabolic waste that our body is trying to get rid of. We have carbon dioxide, and it's gotten rid of through respiration. Water is also gotten rid of through respiration, but also through other stuff as well. These are what they're produced from. Carbon dioxide and water, those are waste products of respiration. Salts are a waste product of metabolic activity. And the nitrogenous wastes, those are breakdown of excessive amino acids and proteins. There's a few different types of nitrogenous waste: ammonia, urea, and uric acid crystals. And they're all pretty toxic, and we're trying to expel them out of our body through our excretory system. And let's look at what they're actually removed by. So carbon dioxide is removed by the lungs. Water is removed by the skin, kidney, and lungs. Salts are removed by the skin and kidney. Ammonia is removed by the liver, and urea is removed by the kidney. That's a lot of words on this slide, and I think there's actually a lot of words on a lot of these slides. So that'll be good when you go back and look at the PowerPoints, but I apologize if I'm just reading off some of these slides. So the kidney itself, it includes an outer cortex, a middle medulla, and the nephrons. So the nephrons specifically, those are the functional units of the kidney, and they consist of different parts as well, such as the glomerulus, the Bowman's capsule, the proximal tubule, the loop of Henle, the distal tubule, and the collecting duct. And they pretty much are they are the functional units of the whole excretory system. So we'll look at them on more of a microscopic scale as well, so you can see a picture of it and see what wastes are leaving the body through different parts of it. And obviously the nephrons are going to be forming urine, which passes through the collecting ducts into the renal pelvis, and that it becomes ureters, which eventually goes to the bladder, and then the urethra, it gets rid of the urine from the body. So there's a picture of what the whole system looks like in terms of the kidney, ureter, bladder, and urethra. Now, blood enters the kidneys via renal arteries, and it leaves the kidneys via the renal veins. So blood pressure is very, very important in terms of how the kidney is working, because it's coming in through these veins and leaving through these. It's coming in through these arteries and leaving through these veins. And wastes are removed from the blood and leave the kidneys to the ureter, which is the final piece right at the bottom. Different part of the kidneys, this is what it looks like. So the cortex is the very outer part, right over here. The medulla is the very inner part, so this is where all of the nephrons are going to be. And then the arteries and stuff, they come in right over here. And it leaves like that, right over there. And then all of the wastes are leaving the ureter right over here. That's what a cross-section of a human kidney looks like. So you can see that the cortex is out over here, and you can see the medulla is this part right over here. So a little bit about the other organs that are involved. The ureters, those are the long tubes that are going to be leaving the kidney and carrying the waste out. The bladder is going to be it's capable of great expansion. It's going to be the storage unit of the urine. And the urethra is the actual passageway of the urine from the bladder to leaving outside the body. And also the passage of semen from the male body. Okay, so there's three major processes that are there in order to excrete all this stuff, and this occurs in the nephron: filtration, reabsorption, and secretion. So like I said, the nephron, let's see if I can find a picture. Okay. So the nephron, it begins with the Bowman's capsules, right over here. So the Bowman capsule is going to be, it's going to lead to the, it surrounds the glomerulus, which is the ball of capillaries right just there. So I'm trying to use this pointer. But the Bowman capsule, it's going to be surrounding the glomerulus, which is just a whole ball of capillaries, convoluted capillaries. And those are arising from the afferent arteriole of the renal artery, and they're going to be leaving the glomerulus as an efferent arteriole, which forms the paratubular capillaries where reabsorption takes place. And these spread over the nephron to later form a venule that joins others to make up the renal vein. So that's kind of how the circulatory part of the kidney works in terms of all the vessels that are involved. And you can kind of see it here. So this is what the nephron looks like. This part right here is the Bowman capsule, and then it goes to the proximal convoluted tubule, and then eventually it goes to the loop of Henle, which is the part that's going like this. Comes back to the distal convoluted tubule, or it's going this way, I guess. Distal convoluted tubule over here, eventually the collecting duct. That's just the structure of it. Okay, so things that are filtered out in the blood into the Bowman's capsule are glucose, urea, salts, and water, and items that remain in the blood. So this is what's being exchanged between those, the glomerulus, which is the ball of capillaries, and the Bowman's capsule. So what's going to be entering the nephron for excretion and stuff. The stuff that stays in the blood are obviously the blood cells, the red blood cells, the white blood cells, platelets, and also hormones. Larger chemicals, because they can't just diffuse into the Bowman's capsule like some of these other things. Now, the Bowman's capsule, it's forcing filtration forced filtration in the Bowman's capsule causes much of the water and ions and smaller molecules to leave the blood and enter the proximal convoluted tubule. And in the proximal convoluted tubule, the capillaries contain blood in a hyperosmotic state. So a lot of the filtrate, it re-enters the blood by osmosis, since it's a lot more concentrated there. So it's going to try to get back into the blood. And active transport also will be returning sodium, glucose, and amino acids to the blood, because those are all things that we need in our body and not stuff that we want to excrete. In the loop of Henle, there's two different loops. There's the ascending loop and the descending loop. And the ascending loop, it actively transports chloride molecules. And so there's gonna be sorry, where was I? Yeah, it transports chloride molecules in the form of NaCl and into the surrounding area, and it recycles salt and it creates the hyperosmotic state in the kidney medulla. And this hypertonic state is further increased by urea, which diffuses out of the collecting duct. So basically, in the descending lib, there's going to be, it's not really on the slide, but in the main part of the descending limb of the loop of Henle, it's going to be water reabsorption, and the main part of the ascending limb are those chloride ions that are in the form of NaCl. That's going to be reabsorbed into the blood. And then urea, it happens in the collecting duct. In the distal convoluted tubule, you have active secretion of sodium ions that occur with the chloride ions, and water passively follows because of that gradient. And potassium ions also enter the tubule from the blood. Here in the go ahead, Dash. You can either speak or just type it up. Yeah. So the details of this stuff, I can send you I'll send you guys all a little image that pretty much tells you the details of. Yeah, no, these slides have a little bit more details than you're necessarily going to need to know. But here, I'm actually going to send it right now because I have it on this other on my desktop. This image. All right, so I just sent you an email of this image that tells you exactly what's happening in each of the. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, Momin. Yeah, it's gonna. I think it's gonna be on the website. Has Dr. Sutton uploaded the other ones? Because I think I mean he wants me to record for, I'm guessing, that purpose, so he can put them on the website. Did you guys get my email with the little picture? No. Well, hopefully you guys didn't, because I sent it to the same email where I sent the link of for this class. Okay, so let's just keep going and get through the material. All right, in the collecting ducts, that's where ADH is going to be. ADH, or our antidiuretic hormone, is going to be active. And in response to the ADH, what happens is water is going to be reabsorbed instead of released. So because it's antidiuretic hormone, it's going to be stopping what a diuretic would do. And an example of a diuretic is like coffee or alcohol. It makes you get rid of water. So antidiuretic hormone, it makes you retain water. So here in the collecting duct, you're going to be reabsorbing a lot of the H2O. Also, you're going to be getting rid of all the urea is going to be traveling at this part of the nephron. And you're also reabsorbing or secreting like a bunch of different ions that aren't as important as well. A bunch of those small ions. So there's a little picture. It's not as nice as it's not as clear as the picture that I just emailed to you guys, but here you can see that sodium and water. Sodium is going to be leaving through the proximal tubules, and water is going to be passively following the sodium concentration. And the same thing happens at the distal tubules as well. And aldosterone is actually going to act at the distal tubule. So that's similar to ADH in that it's causing water retention by retaining sodium. So it's causing water retention more passively than the ADH. ADH is specifically causing water to be retained. Also, there's a lot of Na reabsorption here in the loop of Henle as well. But I think that you guys should pay more attention to the other image I sent you, because this one doesn't have all the details in this slide. All right, so the control of the nephron, a lot of it is gonna be hormonal. So through ADH and aldosterone, and they're also the arterial cells. They're going to be secreting renin, which actually there's a whole system. It's the renin aldosterone system, and what happens is, renin angiotensin system. So the kidney actually releases a hormone called renin, which triggers the formation of angiotensin 2. And angiotensin 2, what that does is it stimulates aldosterone release. So renin to angiotensin 2 to aldosterone. And then finally, the whole point of that is you're trying to increase blood pressure by retaining water. So by retaining sodium, and then which in turn causes more water reabsorption, and that's why you're going to be raising the blood pressure, because you're increasing the blood volume. Any questions about the renin angiotensin pathway? Yeah, what's that? What reduces blood pressure? There's a lot of different drugs that actually affect this renin angiotensin pathway that causes the inactivation of some of these hormones. So some examples are beta blockers. Beta blockers do that. There's also calcium channel blockers that stop it from happening as well. So those are just some examples that cause the reduction of blood pressure. Or are you talking about specifically like within the body? So when your blood pressure gets a little bit too high, there's a whole feedback system which stop the hormones from being released. So it stops from your body increasing blood pressure, and because of that, it'll fall. Also, the heart actually it releases. There's another enzyme that the heart releases specifically. It's called ANP, or atrial natriuretic peptide or something like that. ANP, and that antagonizes aldosterone. It causes the kidney to excrete more sodium and more water. And that also reduces blood pressure as well.
What did you do, Donish? What did you do?
What are you talking about, Moment? Why are you typing when you don't talk?
Because I'm cool like that.
You ain't cool enough, Moment.
Don't be jealous now.
Moment, what are you asking? What reduces blood pressure? Are you asking like medication wise, or like what reduces blood pressure in our body?
Sorry, this is super annoying, but the network just keeps kicking me off because I guess I have bad internet or something. It wasn't a problem before. But yeah, so let's go on to some of the just random disorders of the excretory system. So kidney stones, kidney cancer, renal failure is the same thing as kidney failure. And there's also UTIs, or urinary tract infections, which are caused by gram-negative bacteria. And some of the examples of that is cystitis, urethritis, and pyelonephritis. You don't need to know any of these diseases. This is just random knowledge. Okay, so now we'll talk about the reproductive system. So the reproductive system, it's the system that allows for the continuation of the human species. So obviously this is going to be the part that you're using to reproduce and stuff. So it's very different in both males and females. And the role of the male's reproductive system is to manufacture sperm and then to deliver it to the female's reproductive tract where fertilization will occur. Whereas the role of the female reproductive system, it's almost the same, except it goes further after the egg and sperm meet. The fertilization will occur in this female reproductive system is designed to nurture and care for a cell that will eventually become another human being. Okay, so the sperm specifically is going to be produced in the testes, and it's going to be traveling through a series of different ducts to reach the body's exterior. And the eggs, on the other end, they're produced in the ovaries of the female. And when the egg is to be expelled or ovulated, a blister forms on the exterior of the ovary. And when that blister bursts, the egg may be collected by the ends of the fallopian tubes and travel through the fallopian tubes, where it can eventually be fertilized by sperm. So if it is fertilized, then it travels into the uterus, where it's going to be embedded into the walls of the uterus. There it's going to be continuing to divide rapidly, and those cells begin to specialize into different organs of pregnancy. So some of the cells form the amniotic sac, and then some of them will be forming the placenta and the umbilical cord. And a very small number of these cells will eventually form the fetus. I think later in the course we're going to talk about embryology, so that part of the baby developing we're going to look at in that chapter. Okay, so in the male, the genitalia are the scrotum and the penis. So the male gonads, those are called the testes. No, the embryology was not on the MCAT. I think we're going to cover it a little bit though at the very end of bio, because they might ask some questions in terms of the endoderm, exoderm, mesoderm, some of those kind of stuff are on the MCAT. I don't think it's in very much detail, but mostly gen bio. Do you mean like genetic bio or like general bio? General. Yeah. Most of it is. I'll check with Dr. Sutton to see. I thought that I saw a part of embryology in terms of the syllabus, but maybe I'm wrong.
Check this happened, dude. And
Okay.
where's the PowerPoint?
You gotta talk, guys. Talk.
So
You don't really talk, dude.
sperm is going to be developing in the tightly coiled tubes that are the testes, and they're going to be located outside of the body since sperm production can only occur at about 2 degrees Celsius lower than normal body temperature. So that's why it's a little bit farther away from the body. And after they're produced and they mature, they're actually stored in the epididymis, which is another part, which are these tubes right over here. So 1 second, sorry guys. Okay, so the male system, it also contains 3 different glands that add to the secretion of the semen, such as the seminal vesicles, the prostate glands, and the urethral glands. And let me tell you what exactly those go over, or what those things are actually producing. So the majority of semen is secreted by the seminal vesicles, and those are going to be lying behind and below the bladder and empty directly into the ejaculatory duct. And the fluid that's secreted is clear and thick, and it contains mucus, amino acids, and fructose. And the point of the fructose is to provide energy for the sperm. Sorry, guys, I'm really reading off these slides for this chapter, but it's because there's so many words on there. Okay, what's up, Mama?
So the fructose goes into the sperm cell membrane and makes it go.
The fructose, it's going to be in the actual semen, and yeah, it's going to eventually be transported into the cell membrane and then used for energy. Yeah, that's correct. By the sperm. Okay, so the different glands, what they're going to be producing. So the prostate, that's going to be, it surrounds the beginning of the urethra in which it secretes its products. Prostatic fluid it's going to be milky, it's going to be thin and alkaline in order to balance the acidity of any urine remaining in the urethra and acidity of the vaginal fluid. So basically, it's a very basic fluid that's there to balance the acidity of the urethra. Because the urethra, it's basically like a giant hole of death for the semen. It's a giant hole of death for like the sperm cells. The semen is trying to protect it as it's going through. The bulbourethral glands, they're going to be lying outside along the urethra below the prostate, and we don't actually know what function they actually do, but they do secrete some sort of fluid before the ejaculation. All right, now let's talk about females. So the female gonads, those are going to be called ovaries, and those are located below the digestive system in the abdominal cavity. And inside each ovary, there's going to be a bunch of different follicles. And each follicle is going to contain a single egg cell and 1 or more layers of follicle cells. And the follicle cells, they protect and nourish the egg cells. And in fact, a woman is actually born with every single egg that they're going to be using during their life, whereas males are going to be constantly producing sperm. So it's an interesting thing that, like, whatever cells that a female needs for her reproductive system, she's born with. So, one difference between the two. Ovulation, the definition of that is it's the process in which an egg is expelled from a follicle, and it's expelled directly into the abdominal cavity and is picked up by the fallopian tubes. In the fallopian tubes, there's going to be cilia that allow the egg to travel to it towards the uterus. At the neck of the uterus, there's something called the cervix, and that's followed by the vagina, which has very thin walls, and those are much thinner than those of the uterus. Now, in order for fertilization to occur, the sperm must reach the egg, and each egg is only viable for 12 to 48 hours, but the sperm can last as long as 72 hours. But most of them only retain their fertilizing power for 12 to 48 hours as well. So sex must occur no more than 72 hours before ovulation or no later than 24 hours after. So that's kind of interesting because, people are always, like when people are trying to, I guess, conceive, they need to really pay attention to the whole ovulation period and when ovulation occurs in order to do so, or else the rates are going to be much lower than you'd expect. Okay, so after ejaculation, there's going to be millions of sperm that are released into the female's reproductive tract, and many of them are going to be able to swim towards through the vagina into the cervix, but a lot of them are killed by the acidity of the vaginal fluids, and a lot of them are also killed by phagocytes, which recognize them as non-self. So it's basically a huge rat race. Like there's all kinds of obstacles that the sperm have to go through to actually conceive and reach the egg and then conceive. So once they do reach the egg, they can't immediately fertilize it either, because as time needs to pass for their membranes to be capacitated or weakened, and this is going to be facilitated by the cervical mucus, and in the following 6 to 8 hours, the sperm are gradually capacitated. So even once they get there, they don't automatically conceive. So this is really showing you like how hard it is to actually conceive a child. Eventually, there's going to be an acrosomal reaction. It's called an acrosomal reaction. You don't need to know that. And what that does is it releases enzymes that surround the egg, and it ends up weakening the intracellular cement that surrounds the egg. So once that part is weakened, finally a sperm is allowed to enter the egg and fertilize it. So it's a whole long, complicated process. Wait, I think that's the end of our PowerPoint. Wow. Okay. Let me see some other important things about the reproductive system that you need to know. Here's just a mnemonic to remember the pathway of the male genitalia. You have S for seminiferous tubules. Seminiferous tubules. E for epididymis. B for vas deferens. E for ejaculatory duct. N doesn't mean anything. And U is urethra. And P is penis. So this is the pathway that sperm is going to be traveling through, and it's the same. It's 7 up. If you look at each of those letters that are capitalized, it's 7 up. Another important thing is the difference between how meiosis affects sperm and eggs. So meiosis results in four sperm cells in the male, whereas in female you only result in 1 egg cells because 3 polar bodies are also formed that are, or I think they're called like polar bodies or bar bodies. They pretty much don't have any sort of function. Yeah, guys. Any other questions? I think we've covered everything. We went really fast too, so you guys will have time to relax after your orgo test. After your orgo test, you'll have some just time to chill out. Sorry for ruining your favorite drink. So if you guys don't have any questions, we can just end class right now. Yeah, go ahead and finish typing. I was just waiting for you to finish typing before I end this meeting.